All right. Good morning, good afternoon. Hopefully, you are having a fantastic day. Today is Thursday, April 16th. I am excited to be with you today. Wanted to share with you some things that I have been going over, and also Cammie and I have been going over. We've had a lot of different variety of things that have happened, right? I mean, obviously everybody has. And so I wanted to start today's live with just sharing a couple of different thoughts that I've been having, and hopefully that it can help you guys. Wanted to make sure you guys can hear me okay, make sure the tech is working right. But first, I wanted to share with you, yesterday was Wednesday, and it would have marked the day that Cammie and I would have been on a plane traveling to Utah to be able to start our preparations for EFC. So for those that aren't aware, we go probably about a week before. We have so many things to do prior to the conference, working with the venue, running around. There's like 2 or 3 days of me driving up and down the valley, collecting different things that we need in order for the conference to go off. And so it was kind of a moment of reflection yesterday as we had the notification come up on our phone saying that we needed to board our flight. And I'm sitting in the backyard and with my kids, and I'm thinking to myself, yep, I would be on a flight right now going to EFC. So the overall feeling of everything has changed, right? And so one of the things that we have been doing frequently to kind of sharpen our mind as much as we possibly can is I'm a big fan of podcasts. And so we listen to a variety of people. We listen to Dean Gracioso. We listen to Brendon Bouchard. We're big Tony Robbins fans. And so we watched a video the other night, and it really resonated with us because in it, they were talking about the concept that I think so many of us apply to our business, and we apply to our relationships, and we apply to everything about our life, right? All right, Stacey, we'll be back in 5. Hello. And so one of the things that happens is that there's so many different things that compete for your attention. And so when you're thinking about your business and you're thinking about what is the next step in your business, who is the person that you're putting in that driver's seat? And so the idea was that there's multiple different people who have different personalities, right? So if you are in a certain scenario, you might be a different personality than if you are in a different scenario. So if you are a mom or a dad, you are a certain personality to that in that scenario. If you are a husband or a wife, you are a different personality to that. If you are going to work, you're a different personality for that, right? And so his thought was, who are you putting in charge of your business? What personality are you putting in charge? And so the idea being that there's so many things that are going on in this world, right? I mean, there's so many things that are completely out of your control. And so you can easily, and I think all of us have kind of fallen victim to this, is, you know, the world and the victim mentality, right? And so Cammie and I have been very purposeful about not allowing ourselves to have this victim mentality. And so yesterday, as I get this notification on my phone and I see that we're supposed to be on a plane going to EFC, I started to have kind of a flooding scenario. And so I'm talking about this because hopefully it will be helpful for you guys. So I'm having this flood happen, and I'm thinking to myself, man, if all of this just didn't happen, right? If none of this would have happened, we would be at EFC. We've been rocking out with you guys. We've been able to have, you know, all the things that we had prepared for all year would have gone on without a hitch, and now here we are. You know, and kind of like the woe is me type of mindset, right? Kind of like the like this is happening. And so I was reflecting on this and immediately had this thought come into my head about the video that we watched and about who am I putting in charge of my business? Who am I putting in charge of my scenario right now? And so, hi, Rebecca. I'm glad you're here as well. Hi, guys. Hello, everyone. And so I wanted to share this because I kind of had a epiphany for myself as I was watching this video, is that, you know, if you were to tell yourself, you know, that everybody has fears that they have in their business and in their life. And those fears and those things that you have in your life transpose themselves upon unfortunately, sometimes people that you love, right? I think all of us have had this. Hi, Kathy. All of us have had this happen at some point or another in our life where, we have internal doubts about either our ability. We have internal doubts about our skill set, and the person that we were talking with or listening to said, when you figure out your why, you can understand how the how. Hi, Laura. Good morning. How to figure things out. But if your why isn't strong enough, then you're not going to want to know the how. And so, I'm a big Simon Sinek fan. I love that. I love the material there. And so the thought was that there's so much, things that are happening to us in the world that we absolutely have no control over. Right? I have 3 kids. They're home all day now, where we're used to having them leave. And so we're still trying to get work done and still trying to get things done. So it's a different philosophy. And so I guess my epiphany is this. I had a moment where I was getting flooded with the emotion of us not being on a plane to go to EFC and get ready for it. And I realized that I need to look at this as an opportunity. And I need to making sure that the person who is my best self is the person that I present to you, and that I present to Cami, and then I present to my kids. And if I'm not putting my best self forward, then I'm really robbing not only them, but I'm robbing myself. And I think that is such an important aspect, because if you are not putting your best self forward, and how do you do that? And I think, there are times in my life, and I look back and the person asked, are there times in your life where you just felt on fire, right? Where you felt like there was nothing that you could not do, nothing that you couldn't accomplish, that you could walk through a brick wall. And there's been several times in my life where I have felt like that. And I'm like, man, that was like, the words just flow, feeling feels good. You just feel like you're on your game, right? And there's other times where you feel like it doesn't matter what you do, you can't move forward. And it's amazing to see that nothing really has changed other than you, other than the fact that your mindset, the state in which you are in, has completely changed. And so he gave us some ideas. He said, if you want to change your if you want to change your emotion, meaning like the way you feel, you have to get in motion, right? And so you have to physically move. Right? And so I'm going to be silly for a minute. And those who know me well know that Ty gets silly. And so he literally did this, right? Let's see if I stand up. I'm a tall guy. So I'm backing up. All right. So guys, stay with me. So if you feel down, if you feel like things aren't going well, if you feel like you're like, I got to do another day, right? And I kind of felt if you're getting flooded, right? So literally this was, he's like, you got to have radical movement. Right? If I work out, I love working out. If I work out, I can tell you that after I work out, I feel so much better after I work out, guys. It's incredible, right? And so here's what he says. He's like, literally, I want you to physically change your state. Okay? Change your state, change and get in motion. So if your emotions are not where you want them to be, get in motion. And so he literally did this, okay? So this is funny. I should get my daughter in here. She's 8 years old. And so we're like, Adeline, your emotion isn't where it needs to be right now. And so we got to do this. And so they're like, oh, Dad, you're so weird, right? And so this is what he did. He's like, I want you to take your hands up above your head, and I want you to jump. Give me 10 jumps. And so I did it. So I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And literally the blood starts flowing through your body. You feel different. You feel completely different. And so you get up and you start stretching and you change your motion. So as you do that, it's amazing to see how the physiology of your body changes. And when I did this, I was like, all right, I can do this. I can go. I can get things done. I can do the things I need to do. Right? And so I think so many of us, we get in a position of I am being flooded by the things that are happening to me. And man, I'm like getting emotional here because I think so many of us are human beings. And because we're human beings, we all feel these things. We all feel the effects of what's happening right now. If you're not, then you're lying to yourself, right? And I think so many of us feel like we have some type of guilt associated with the fact that there is a worldwide pandemic. Comment if you feel like this or if you understand what I'm saying. But like, sometimes I feel like as parents, as business owners, I feel like, man, this pandemic has obviously it's affected us, right? Like, yeah, you are a nut, but that's what makes you great too. Thanks, Rebecca. I am a nut. So like, I think what's funny to me is that like, in my mind, I'm like, man, this pandemic, like EFC got rescheduled. Like all of these things are happening to us. I don't even know when I'm going to start doing this. Like, I just like, honestly, I just want to think like, you know, it's funny that the person we were listening to said business is 80% psychological. It's 80% psychological. So it's not just, you know, figuring out the technical aspects. Like, Stacy, I get it. Like I get it. Like, Stacy, I completely understand. Like, when you're learning the tech, it can be overwhelming because it's like a foreign language and you're trying your hardest to understand it and you're like, I don't understand it. And like, you feel like it's a brick wall, it's a brick wall, it's a brick wall. And I think what I want to try to share with you guys is something that Cami and I have had to learn. And unfortunately, we're learning it again and again. But I think that there is this mindset that because there is a pandemic, that we feel that it is our fault, or we feel some type of guilt because of the inability that we're doing it right. Like there is some type of a book that we are supposed to have followed, and that there's this internal guilt. And so the mindset, and he talked about this, is that the brain will give you certain thoughts. The brain will tell you. The brain is a 2 million year old thing that keeps you alive, that keeps you and makes you survive. So when the brain tells you a thought, right? And so in this video, he had everybody ask, like, what are the 2 biggest fears you have in your life? Right? So Katie, I absolutely agree. I feel so much guilt over how my kids have been impacted. Absolutely. It's like we feel the brunt of this. And I get it. And so I think as leaders and as people who have a voice and as people who have the opportunity to share their voice with their audience, I'm encouraging you and I'm challenging you to share your voice with those that follow you. And I promise you, you will find who your true followers are. Because in my personal opinion, it is okay for us to feel the effects of guilt, and it is okay for us to feel the effects of not being enough, but it's not okay for us to believe it. And what I truly mean by that is it's okay for you to have that thought, because we all have that thought. Our brain is going to give us that thought, but it's the moment you believe something, that's the moment when your body starts to feel stress, your body starts to tense up, you start to feel the actual effects of that thought. If a thought comes into your mind, let me give you a scenario. If somebody came up to me and said, Ty, I can't believe your red hair, it just makes me throw up in my mouth. I would look at them and then I would say, I apologize, I think you might be colorblind, I have black hair. Right? It's not even a thought that I would give a second to. But if somebody were to tell me, Ty, you're not a good father, or Ty, you're not somebody that you're not a good husband, right? All of a sudden that hits on a fear that I have, right? An actual belief that I believe. And maybe it's not this, maybe it's this, right? And I think for us, when we have the brain tell us something that we somewhat believe, then our whole physiology changes, our whole mechanics change, and our whole face changes. So we have to retrain not just our mind, but we have to align our mind and our heart. And it was such an empowering thing, which is why I'm going off about this, is that they have found that when a baby is born, the first thing that is formed is their heart, and that their heart has an intelligence all its own. And then after the heart is developed, the brain then becomes developed. And so the thought is that your heart has an intelligence that if you tap into, you are able to figure out and understand what your true identity is. But if you allow your brain, if you're in your head, you're dead. That's what the guy said. If you're in your head, you're dead. This is Tony Robbins, by the way. And he says, if you're in your head, you're dead. Because if you think about the things that you're deficient in, and whatever you focus on, it becomes somewhat of a reality. So if you're constantly checking this, if you're constantly doing updates on the coronavirus and you're constantly seeing how things are doing, you're reading articles 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day, or maybe that's just in 20 minutes, then what are you going to be focusing on, right? So there is absolutely, almost every expert has agreed that we are going to get out of this. And when we get out of this, it's going to be the people who have improved themselves, who have actually gotten themselves to the next level, that are going to benefit the greatest, as opposed to the people who, once they get out of this, say, okay, let's get back to work, right? And so changing your motion, changing your emotion, your motion that you have by getting in motion is a great tactic for us. And so throughout the day, if my kids are complaining about things that I'm asking them to do, which is like everything right now, like, hey, help unload the dishwasher. Hey, sweep up the floor. Hey, let's pick up after lunch. Hey, we got to pick up after dinner. Hey, we got to do this before we go outside and play. Hey, I know you can't have a play date right now, but you got to do this. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's do it. And so we'll stand up and we'll start doing the 10. And I'm telling you, it has changed the way the home feels. It has changed the way that when we sit down to do things like this, or we are writing an email, or we're writing our next blog post, or we're doing something that's going to transform or to do something, push our business to the next level, right? Because if you're exhausted and you're going to come down and you're going to figure out how to do SEO and put on everything in digital marketing, and you're exhausted and you're just in a frame of mind that you're like, okay, I got to do this because I've committed to myself, I'm going to do this. Like, what kind of output do you think that's going to be? As compared to the times where if you get yourself in a right state, right? Like, think about it like this. If you were to go on stage at EFC, and some people might freak out that they are going to be public speaking, and that's fine. It's funny. I've done this for a year and a half, or almost 2 years now, and every week I've gone live. And I think at the beginning, I remember still being nervous, and now I don't feel like I get nervous anymore. I feel like I just want to make sure I'm prepared, right? And so there's a difference. Like, being nervous and being prepared are very different thoughts. And if you are prepared, then you don't have any fear. And also, the other thing that you have to do is just get familiarized with it. But in the beginning, you have to give yourself some grace. And I think what I'm wanting you to do is give you permission to have grace. Nobody knows how to deal with this situation, but what we do need to make sure we don't allow is that our belief of our fears becomes cemented into our minds, and we feel like that fear is who we are. Okay? Let me explain something. You are not what your fears are. Okay? You are powerful and more empowered than your fears. And I 1,000% promise you that if you were to tap into the intelligence of your heart and find what you can do, the sky is the limit. If you can recognize your empowerment of being able to put forth your best self, think about the things that you can do, not just in your personal life, in your business, and in any relationship that you want to improve. Your best self is what needs to be put in the front of your business and driving. When I talked about the different personalities, there was a mindset that sometimes we think that we're curled up in the ball in the corner and we're watching Netflix or Disney Plus for 7-8 hours a day. And then we're like, okay, I got to do something because I feel guilty now that I did that. And the brain tells us these thoughts. But as long as you do not believe them, as long as you force them out, so there's a mechanism that you have to use. When a negative thought comes into your brain, you force it out. Once you force it out, then what you have to do is you have to think about things that you appreciate, that you're grateful for, things that you enjoy, things that you love. If you can come up with things that you're appreciative, that you're grateful for, and that you love, after you force out a thought, it will change your thoughts just like that. It's an amazing, true principle. I 1,000% agree with it, and I 1,000% hope that it can help you in your business. Okay? So let me know if this resonates with you guys. Let me know if you've had these issues in the last 4, 5, 6, whatever weeks we've gone on now. And, Cammie and I were talking about this the other night. If you truly have your best self driving your business, it's incredible when you take that person and you put them in the driver's seat. what you're able to accomplish, how you're able to approach things. Nothing seems to derail your direction. But when you put your negative personality in the driver's seat of your business, everything affects you. Everything is detrimental. Everything that you have, that you feel, that you want to do to drive your business forward is roadblocked and brick walled. And if you just had XYZ, if you just had XY. And so it's amazing to see the transformation that if you put yourself in a peak state, how much impactful that can be, not just to your business, but to your life. So a longer than normal soapbox for me today, but powerful principles that have provided me with clarity and relief from the guilt that is this COVID-19 pandemic. So please, I hope that this has been valuable for you. If it is, comment that it's been valuable. Let me know. I love how passionate you are, Ty. Thanks. I needed this today. Kathy, thank you for coming. I appreciate your time here. I appreciate every single second you guys come to these lives. I want you to get so much value out of it. Seriously, I think that you guys are amazing. You guys are incredible human beings, incredible women, incredible men who can impact the world for the best. And unless you put yourself in your best self, then you are limiting your ability. And I do not want you to limit your ability. You can absolutely impact the world as many and as much and as little and as incredibly amazing as you want. And it's all in here, and it's all right here. So when you feel that you can do whatever you want to do, it's amazing. You can. And it's the same thing. I mean, some of you have kids. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And I'm teaching my 5-year-old how to play baseball and how to play basketball, and my 8-year-old how to play the piano and play tennis. And it's incredible. We went and Cammie took our kids to the tennis court yesterday, and she's like, Ty, it's incredible. Like, they're hitting the ball over the net now, and they're hitting forehands and backhands. And yeah, I think it's so amazing how it's like, it's helpful. I think it's so much, it's so encouraging to see progress, right? Like, you're so encouraged to see, wow, look where I was and look where I am now. Look at my like. I got some messages this week from people who have been able to be accepted into Mediavine and where they weren't before. And I'm so encouraged by momentum. Momentum is something that can, I mean, when you look at sports teams, it's the reasons why they win back-to-back championships, or individuals when they win multiple majors or multiple tournaments. It's because the momentum is carrying them. So all you have to do is start to get the momentum in your life. And when you get the momentum in your life, then everyone get out of the way, because here you come. And there's nothing that's going to derail you. It doesn't matter the negative comments. It doesn't matter the people who have pissed off personalities. You don't want to spend time with them anyways, because they have their own issues, and hopefully they can listen to something like this and get their mind where they need to be, get their heart where they need to be at, so that they can be their best self. But I am just so deflated by the amount of people who feel like the victim mentality is their reality. It is not. You have the power, the ability, and the resources to change it. The only difference between those that do and those that do not are those that take the time to learn what they need to learn to improve their life. And if you are not learning what you need to learn to improve your life, then it's amazing. When you do that, the guilt goes away. When you do that, you don't feel like you're doing something wrong. When you do that, you feel like you're just on fire. And sometimes it's other people's fire that helps you ignite or rekindle or spark your own fire. But when you get that fire back, don't ever let it burn out. And if you don't, then it's amazing to see what type of week, what type of day, what type of month you can have. It does not matter if there's a freaking global pandemic. You personally are going to go and do amazing things. And that is what I want for each of you. Okay. Thanks, Ty. Good timing for this message. Rachel, you are welcome. Heather, you're so great. Really appreciate these resourceful and pep talks. Thank you. Laura, definitely valuable. Always get so much out of this hour, not only with SEO, but with keeping me motivated and inspired. Thank you, Laura. Holly, thank you for the inspiration. Dexter, you are impacting our worlds. Holly, I really appreciate that. Oh, don't get me started on the victim mentality. Keep going, Ty. It's so helpful to have positivity. Yes, yes. I have an opportunity to work with young people as part of my church, and it's amazing to see how many of them have a victim mentality. Oh, the teachers, oh this, oh that, and it's so incredibly enlightening when somebody else comes with an opposite message, right? You're like, hey, there's some. I didn't realize it was available. All I see is this, right? So surround yourself with podcasts, with people, like I said, the people I listen to are Brendan Bouchard, Dean Gracioso, Tony Robbins. These three people have really impacted me, helped me make sure that my spark does not leave where it needs to be for me, myself, for Cammie, for my kids, and for our business. And if those things have diminished or gone away for you, or if you are feeling like your emotions have taken control of you over the last 6 weeks, do that little thing that I did at the beginning. Replay that. Show it to your family. I don't care. Do something. And it's got to be radical. That was a big thought. It's like you can't just like get up and walk, right? Like you got to run. You got to jump. You got to sprint. You got to do something that changes what you're thinking about, because immediately after you do, it's incredible to see how your brain it fires, and all of a sudden things are moving. And so we personally have gotten into our summer schedule. So for us, we have different schedules of things that we have to do. Sometimes the schedules, and we're not perfect, gets thrown off, but if we stay to our schedule, it's incredible to see the day we have, the weeks we have, and the mindset that is in our home. So I think that I love it. You were so right. It's a mindset I need more of, but I'm so darn British. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, guys. So please, I could go on for days on this. I think I should, I don't know, maybe I'll do something with this, but I think I personally love the ability that every one of you have to impact your world, because you can impact people surrounding you. You can impact not only people online, people on Facebook. Scrolling Facebook for 400 times a day, is that really going to get you where you need to be in your life? Is that really going to get you where you want to go in your business, right? And I think as for me, when I'm getting ready, I'm listening, or I'm working, I'm listening to podcasts, right? So when my podcasts are going on, I like to listen to things as I work. Maybe for you it might be different, but I've gotten my kids to start to listen to it, and they're talking about it, right? And they're thinking about it, and it's amazing. So Laura, my father was a Navy SEAL, and he always drilled me into fight till you die mindset. Basically, always get back up. You always keep moving forward. When you do, you die. You never give up. I've applied it to everything I do in life. Laura, that's amazing. It's amazing, Laura. Laura, I remember meeting you at EFC or at the SEO retreat, and just the background you have, what you've worked on. It's just incredible. So I think, if you look at it, there's so much that you could be grateful for. Okay, if you stop fighting for what you want, I mean it. If you stop fighting for what you want, I meant. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's amazing to see how many of us fall into this world as we look at the news and we look at social media, and we become what we focus on. So if you focus on positivity, if you put yourself in a situation where you're getting positive things, it's amazing to see how your mindset shifts. And if you think about all the things that are negative and you get negative things filtered into your mind, it's amazing to see that you become negative. And so for me, it's like, I'm not going to put myself in a negative state. I can't be my best self there. I can't run my business from that perspective. I can't be a good husband. I can't be a good father. I can't be negative and also want the things that I want in my life. So if I want the things that I want in my life, I need to be the opposite. So I'm going to fill my mind and my ears and my eyes with positive things. My positivity and the positivity I get from others is what I will focus on. And when I focus on that, it's incredible to see the difference that I am. I'm kinder, I have more patience, I don't get as angry, and it's incredible. It's incredible. Like the night and day difference between the two, right? And I'm like, wow, that Ty was really nice today. I think he would I want to spend time with him, right? But if I get the negative Ty, it's like, does he have any friends? Why would somebody want to be friends with that guy? Right? And so think about it. Do a self-evaluation. And I think, when you become, Brendan has a phrase, it's called high performers. When you're a high performer, you don't allow other people to impact you. You impact them. And I think that is so, so, so true. If you can think about who you can impact, and maybe it's the next generation, right? Who can you impact? Get them listening to podcasts. Get them listening to changing their state as they get ready. A podcast. That's always what I do when I'm getting ready. I'm listening to a podcast, and I don't drive anymore because I work from home. So when I'm working, I'm listening to a podcast. Big Audible fan, so I listen to different things and constantly invigorate your mind. And when you do, it's incredible to see where you can go with your day and the thoughts that will come in. And then when you start, and if you in your head, you're dead. So I love that phrase. Don't believe the thoughts that come into your head. There is a source that this brain tells you. If you ask the wrong question, you get the wrong answer, right? So if you're extremely overweight and you ask yourself, why can't I lose weight? The answer is going to be because you're a pig, right? Because you're eating too much. Right? And that's going to depress you. But if you ask yourself, how can I lose weight and still have fun doing it? Then maybe you come up with an example. Maybe you come up with something that would be enjoyable, some type of exercise that you could try. Maybe it's tennis, maybe it's racquetball, maybe it's running, maybe it's biking. And you can actually lose weight and not think about it. Right? So it's always the question that you ask yourself. How can you create a question in your mind? How can you create the question that will give you the answer to solve your problem? It's interesting. This is my final thing, I promise. This has been like a 30-minute soapbox. But I think, Tony gave the example of, when children go straight wayward. Right. And, getting personal, not extremely personal, but this has happened not in my immediate family, but the family I was raised in. I had a brother who did not make the right choices in life. And so I'll just leave it there. And so one of the things that happened was my parents, I could see the turmoil that it had on them. Right. And I absolutely recognize it now as a parent that they did the best they could. And, it says, it was interesting. He's like, when parents have a wayward child, they get, there's a feeling that happens there. And so he basically said that the thought is it's always about the parent, right? So meaning that they're thinking about how they have failed their child, right? Instead of just thinking about what the solution is. Right. And so if they had thought about how they failed their child, why they could have done this differently, they should have done that differently. And had they done those things differently, then they would have gotten a different outcome. Right. So instead of all of that, what you have to think about, just focus on the solution. And I think sometimes when it comes to our business and it comes to our life, if we were to get out of our head and really not think about all the guilt associated with a past decision or past thought and just focus on what's the solution. Right. So for some of you, you remember, it was interesting. I had the thought come into my head the other day about my webinar. Oh man, that webinar. So when I launched EDM, I did this big, massive webinar. Some of you might remember this thing. And let's just say it wasn't my finest moment. Okay. I was getting ripped to shreds in the comments, and people were taking me behind the woodshed talking about how horrible I was, how, all of these things I didn't do right. And I remember just looking at these comments and just thinking to myself, you know what? I can't change the fact that this happened, but what I can change is how I respond to it. And I think I've heard from some of you that was one of the reasons why you're with me now. And I think that I can look at that experience and recognize, yes, there was mistakes made. But if I just simply sit there and dwell on the mistakes, I wouldn't have launched the retreats. I wouldn't have done any of this. Right? The webinar was historic, Rebecca. Yeah, it was historic, right? Like, Rebecca, you were there. Like, people, oh my goodness, those comments. Like, oh, it was rough, man. Like, I remember thinking to myself, I did not do that right. And, and I'm still not perfect. I still make mistakes, right? But the thing is, I'm going to pick myself back up, and I'm going to keep going forward. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try something new. I'm going to keep iterating, and I'm going to keep trying, because, like Laura said, I'm going to keep fighting. And that is what the mentality is when it comes to business. And I think if we do not iterate and we do not challenge ourselves that's what excites me. Like, the reason why I love digital marketing and SEO is because it's changing. It changes. Like, by 6 months, it changes, right? Google will do an update. Things will change. The November update happened. Here we are in April. Things are different now, right? And if you're not constantly trying to stay on top of things, you're not going to get it. But look at you now. LOL. Yeah. Honestly, it's because of how you handled that situation that made a difference for me, Rebecca. Like, I've heard that from people, and I mean, for those that weren't there, I basically came on just like this and sitting in the exact same seat and basically apologized and said, you know what, I didn't handle that right. I'm sorry. And I think it's okay to make mistakes, but what's not okay is that you dwell on them. And what's not okay is that you allow that mistake to define you. And I think for me, that mistake motivated me. And I think I've always been driven that way. I was in athletics. If I didn't do something right, the coach yelled at me or I got trouble, I always wanted to change it. I always wanted to become better. And so I think for me, that internal motivation has driven me. And I think each of you have that motivation inside of you. Each of you have a why that motivates you. And maybe it's not just for you, maybe it's for other people. I know that's one of my big strong whys is I have a wife, I have 3 kids. Like, that motivation for me is them. Right? And then I also, my motivation and the why has changed over the years. When I was in high school, it was all about me, right? Because that's when you are probably the most selfish in your life, right? But at least how it was for me. So anyways, guys, I think it is amazing to me to see the impact you can have, not only on your children's lives, not only on your neighbors' lives, but on the people who come to your sites, on the people who come to you. The way you handle that tie was a lesson in how to handle something with class. Hey, Michelle, thank you. I appreciate that. I was basically, and people were right. I didn't handle that right. I got some bad advice. I didn't handle it right. I didn't do it right. I still think that it's a good practice, and I recognize now what I did wrong. I didn't teach anything, and that's exactly what I needed to do, especially with the traffic I had. So I've learned a lot and thought about that. But the thought came to me, and I was just thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, you're right. No, that's always. But here we are. Like, look what's happened. And I think it's incredible to me. And I think, Cammie has a similar experience with EFC when she got kicked out of a Facebook group and she was like, it's done. Wrap this up before it gets started. But here we are. Look at EFC now. And so think about the things that you have done in your business and be okay with the fact that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail. Right? Most people who have ever accomplished anything of significance in history have failed so much before they finally succeeded. And I think that, Cammie gave the example of Dr. Seuss, and you think through, it's interesting. I read a podcast that said that Walt Disney was rejected by 304 banks before he finally got the money to launch his business that became Disney. 304 banks had rejected him. What if he would have stopped at 302, right? So sometimes you don't know how close you are to getting to where you want to be until you keep fighting and you keep pushing. And if you stop, you're letting your voice stop. And when you let your voice stop, you let the brain, not your brain, the brain dictate your life. Do not allow the brain to dictate your life. Allow your heart, allow your motivation of your why to drive you. It doesn't matter where you are in your life. You can absolutely change what you are doing. So, and how you're doing it. I want that to be hopefully helpful for you because it has been helpful for me during this time. I think this COVID-19 has really kicked us in the pants, and I think yesterday was just kind of a flooding moment. I'm like, yeah, we're supposed to be boarding a plane right now to go to Utah from Austin to go to EFC and start setting up because we're going to have EFC next week. Nope, we're not. So that's okay. Now I have an opportunity to improve ourselves, to make it better when it comes in August, right? And so hopefully that has been helpful to you. So guys, I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I do want to actually talk to you about some digital marketing. So shall we? Let's go. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today, okay, is this concept right here. So the content, and with that, it's a good segue into body content. So as you think about the body content, I wanted to talk about this more. So the very first thing that you need to recognize when you're trying to rank for something, like somebody give me a keyword, and we're going to walk through this really quickly. All right, somebody give me a keyword that you want to rank for. Let's go. What keyword do you guys want to rank for? I'm going to Google it real quick. So somebody hit me with a comment for something that they want to rank for. Hey Holly. Hopefully the Facebook Live is working. See people coming in and out. Hopefully it's working. Somebody give me a keyword, guys. What do you guys want to rank for? Mexican beans and rice. All right, great. Okay, so if I'm trying to make Mexican beans and rice, let's just think through this for perspective. The very first thing that I would do if I'm you is I'm thinking through what is the person who is writing, who is going to be Googling this, and what are they looking for? What are some of the things that they want to accomplish in their content? Meaning, like, what is something that they would actually want to read? Right? So if you are not putting yourself in the mindset of somebody who's Googling your term, then you are writing your content with your bias as opposed to their bias. The point of view in which you address your content is 1,000% one of the big distinctions on whether or not your content is going to rank or not. And if your content is written from your perspective instead of the person's perspective who is coming to your site, then you are failing that individual. Let me give you an example. Let's talk about Mexican beans and rice. If I'm going to write an article that is answering the question, Mexican beans and rice, what are some of the things that I'm probably going to be looking for? Right out of the gate, I'm going to be looking for the authentic things that make Mexican bean and rice taste amazing, right? So it's not really about Mexican beans or rice. It's about the person you're writing it for. Okay? So the idea being that, hey, I need to write something that somebody who is going to be writing this is going to be reading. So that's the person I'm trying to appease, not the facts and figures about it, right? So if you guys have ever had this experience where you've talked to a developer, or you talked to a mathematician, or you talked to a science person, and you just had a conversation with them and you walked away thinking, I have no idea what this person just said. They talked over my head. They were very factual, but there was no, there was no finesse. There was no bedside manner. There was no actual human talk there. It was simply just the facts. And I think that is where you guys can dominate when it comes to these bigger sites, because the bigger sites are just giving you the recipe. They're giving you the ingredients, and that's it. They're not giving you any information. They're not giving you any bedside manner, right? And sometimes you have to balance that. And I'm not saying your post needs to be completely all of the bedside manner. It does absolutely need to be the facts, the figures, the things that make it work, the things that make it unique, the things that make your point of view right. But it needs to be written in a way that will help alleviate the pain of the person who's coming. And so what I mean by that is that in the course you have the user persona videos. If you do not know who your user persona is when it comes to your website and your content, then you're writing content not correctly. And I hate to see this. When I look through and I look at some of these bigger sites, it's like, how are they getting rankings? And the reason why I'm talking about this is that the reason why they're getting rankings is because of their authority and the fact that they have trusted signals that Google is recognizing. So in order for us to beat those trusted signals, you have got to get something better than what they are providing. So I've talked about this linked, I've talked about this before. What I want you guys to think about is how and what pain points does this person have. So in my mind, I'm thinking Mexican beans and rice is not a difficult recipe to make. But if I'm trying to write about it, as I come up here, I'm doing a little bit of research and I'm recognizing traditional, authentic. Those are two things that I would absolutely want to make sure that I'm recognizing. So if I'm going to be starting off my blog posts, I need to touch on the fact that why is my recipe authentic or traditional? How am I going to distinguish my recipe from the, 69 million other recipes that are available online? So 69 million, that's quite a bit. So I'm going to need to make sure that mine's unique. And I need to make sure that I tell something that it makes it unique. And if it's not going to be unique, then it's just going to get lost in the clutter that is. So when I was at Fans, one of the things that we had to do is to sell licensed apparel from all the 4 major sports leagues here in the United States. And the thing that's problematic about that is that for different leagues, they had different manufacturers. So like Nike and Adidas and Reebok and those are the main ones. And then Majestic for baseball, their hats. And so we not only had to figure out how to create value out of making sure that we did those, but we had to make sure we did value out of doing making content that was unique, right? Because it was the exact same shirt that 4 other websites had. More than that, 10 other websites had. So what type of information were we going to give value to it? So I view recipes and content creation for recipes as the same thing. What type of value are you giving and how are you going to display it? So the very first thing that I'm thinking through is, what am I going to make this traditional? How am I going to make this authentic? And then also, how am I going to distinguish my recipe from somebody else's? So this is where the art and the science of copywriting really comes in. And it's a very creative process. And many of you are very creative. I mean, look at your websites. The fact that you're creating these pieces of art that you guys call recipes, it's incredible. Right? So right out of the gate, you can take a look at this. Look at this. This is written in a bowl, or this is put in a bowl. This is put obviously with lots of toppings, and this is just put with some garnish, right? So as I look at this, which one is more appealing? And each one of you have the same concept when you go to the grocery store and you make a selection based off of packaging, right? You literally make a selection based off of design and what is written on it. So now that you're writing the information, you absolutely need to practice on how you write information that will appease and appeal to those people who are going to be reading your information. So when I talk about body content, the very first thing is, what are the pain that I'm trying to alleviate? The second thing is, how am I going to alleviate this pain in my unique way? The third is, how am I going to point out my point of view, the point of view that is unique to me, and distinguish myself over the 69 million other people who have written an article about Mexican beans and rice? So the value that you have to provide is off the charts. And you have to do it in a very, very salesman and artsy, not salesman, I don't want to say salesman, very marketing way, right? Because if I were to come up to you and I were to put a video, put my camera in front of you, and I would say, all right, Helen, this is yours. Why is your Mexican's bean and rice recipe the best thing online? And if you can't tell me the answer to that, if you can't tell me what distinguishes it and what makes it unique and what your point of view is, then neither can your competitors, or neither can your viewers, rather. And so if your viewers can't distinguish why yours is unique and why yours is best, then we're not going to be able to rank number one. Again, if you are going to rank on the first page of Google, that is meaning that you are going to be the top 9 listings out of 69 million. Basically 70 million, 100,000 or 100,000 less, right? If you're not going to be the top 9 out of 70 million, that essentially means that you have to be the best. So I want you guys to work on recognizing what you have to do from a creative standpoint to make yours the best. So let's just go through and let's take a look. And one of the things that I get encouraged by, having said all that, when I look at some of these recipes, I'm like, this is absolutely something that I can take down. This is why I'm building authority, but I'm also ensuring that my first couple sentences, like when cooked using the absorption method, medium grain rice yields a tender, starchy, slightly creamy kernel that's ideal for saucy rice dishes like this one. Okay, I don't know what the absorption method is, but I'm finding out if that's something I need to look at, right? So you absolutely need to be utilizing your creativity and your uniqueness when it comes to your recipes, because people want your point of view. And if you do not provide your point of view in every single blog post, it's not going to make a difference when people come to your site. Okay, so I have a lot of people who responded, so I want to take a look at these. So taco seasoning recipe. All right, Laura. I think honestly, taco seasoning is not all created equal. I've had the pleasure of making some tacos, and I 1,000% agree that different taco seasoning can make a big difference in the amount of tacos you get and what type of taco you get, right? So let's just take a look at Give Me Some Oven, as this is the first blogger. This DIY taco seasoning recipe is quick and easy to whip up and works great as a season on everything from tacos to veggies, meats, seafood, rice, beans, soup, salad, and more. Okay, very good detailed shot. Get ready to make the recipe that calls for taco seasoning, but don't have a jar on hand? No worries. It's easy to make homemade taco seasoning. All you need is a handful of spices that are likely already in your pantry. Simply whisk them all together, store in a sealed spice jar, and use whenever you are ready. Okay. So she is touching on something where you might not have a jar. So that's a unique point of view. I think that obviously she's ranking number one outside of all recipes. So she's obviously doing things right, but she's obviously hitting on a need that you need to have a jar, right? So I would personally go at this topic by thinking of it from not all taco seasoning is made the best. I personally would say something like, I have personally tried over 20 different varieties of taco seasoning. Let me show you why my taco seasoning is better than their 20, right? Because that's enticing. It's something that encourages me to continue to read. It's something that makes me think, oh, wow. Okay, yeah, this guy's probably where I want to go, right? It's something that I want to be able to allow my viewers and my readers to think, I'm glad I came here. I like that point of view, right? So her point of view is that you probably don't have a jar on hand and that you probably have the spices already in your pantry. So absolutely, I'm not saying that's a bad point of view. I'm saying I probably wouldn't personally go after that point of view. Or taco seasoning, for me, I'm thinking that if I'm Googling taco seasoning, I'm probably fed up with the fact that I'm having taco seasoning out of the gate, or I want to see if there's a better option, right? I've already bought taco seasoning at the store. Anytime I'm doing DIY or something, I can buy something at the store, I'm wanting to see why it's better. Okay, so give me the reasons why it's better and do it in a way that actually helps me. So, okay, Rachel, you wanted to do sandwich bread. All right, so personally, I know sandwich bread is not created equal. I know that for a fact because if you've been to the retreat, we have, where's that bread from? I forget the company that we get for lunch on the second day, but we get some really good bread, and I always think, man, this bread is awesome, right? So classic sandwich bread from Clean Author Flour. Sally is simply sandwich bread. Let's look at Sally. What does Sally say here? Yeah, Brian Alec Baker. So let's see, with step-by-step pictures, a full video tutorial, and plenty of helpful tips, learn how to make simple white sandwich bread using a few basic ingredients like flour, water, yeast, salt, and milk. Bread flour promises a super soft interior with an extra chewy crust. This recipe yields one loaf, so it's perfect if you only have one loaf pan. And it looks like I get a pop-up here. Hang on. Okay. If you're new to working with yeast, reference my Baking with Yeast guide for answers to common yeast FAQs. Actually, I really like that one. I really like that one because basically she's telling me that she has step-by-step pictures, a full video tutorial, helpful tips, because what happens when people make bread is they mess it up. Right? Not only do they mess it up and they don't know why they messed it up. So they have to have a lot of various people holding their hand. And then she also gives me the Baking for Yeast guide. If you've been to retreat, you know evergreen content is a big part of my strategy. Evergreen content, 1,000% can have the opportunity for you to rank for some really big, empowering, big terms that you need. So I 1,000% want you to work on big terms like this. Baking for Yeast guide is something that you can use in every single bread recipe, because yeast is going to be something that's used in most breads, right? I learned the other day that sourdough bread does not have yeast. You have to let it rise on its own. Learned that the other day. So hey, I'm learning a lot from you guys because I don't know your world as much as you guys do. So sorry, I had to drink water. So 1,000%, I actually like that. I like that. Okay, so in my view, if I'm writing, Rachel, a sandwich bread recipe and I'm trying to beat out Sally, What I'm going to have to try to do is I'm going to need to have step-by-step pictures. I'm going to need to have a video. I'm going to need to have plentiful helpful tips. And I'm probably going to make sure that I show them that it's going to be easy for them to do. But the other thing that I'm going to probably do is I'm going to show them why my bread is better than any bread they can buy at the store. Right? So again, I'm hitting that hard, and I'm coming up with a variety of ways to highlight that exact same point. Why is it that my bread, my recipe is better than what you can buy at the store? Why is it that my stuff is going to be unique and different than what you could get somewhere else? And that's 1,000% the highlight of the first sentence, the first paragraph that you need to do. Okay, so sandwich bread is soft. I love what they're doing, highlighting it real quick, right? So let's go on to the next one. Hopefully that gives you some thoughts there. So Liz, you said zucchini bread. All right, let's do this one. I personally wasn't a big fan of zucchini bread. I thought that it would not taste the way that I was hoping that it would taste. After having zucchini bread, though, I absolutely became a raving fan. So I know I'm putting my own spin on this, and I'm not always your target demographic, but I think for me, when I learned about, here's another one from Sally, the best zucchini bread ever. Let's see what she says. This is my family favorite recipe for homemade zucchini bread. One slice and you'll taste why. It's made with warm brown sugar, pure vanilla extract, cozy cinnamon spice, and summer's favorite vegetable. See my recipe note to make zucchini muffins. All right, so family favorite recipe. So I think that's a good way of putting it. Another thing that you could do is social proof. So if you've had a lot of people share it on Pinterest, on Facebook, on Instagram, you have a whole bunch of people who have come to it. This is more for so not a new post, but an older post. What you can do is go to that Google analytic information, look at all the people who have attended or have viewed that post, and nobody's going to fact check you. Say, this post has been viewed over 1 million times. 1 million people have made this on their table. You cannot go wrong in looking at this bread, right? That type of social proof absolutely resonates and makes me think, yeah, absolutely, I'm at the right place. One of the things you have to do, all within the first 3 sentences, is you have to allow people to realize, A, they've landed on the right spot. B, they're going to get value for what they've came for, and that they're looking to get the answer to the question that they had. And 3 is that they're going to get the information that they want and that they can't get anywhere else, right? That they have gone to Google, Google has told them the right thing, and that this site is the right place for them to be. Right, all of that has to be done in the first 3 sentences. Because of the F-shaped pattern, because of the fact that we live in a scrolled world, people are easily going to be distracted. And if you do not allow them to capture their attention, you're not going to. Okay, so hopefully that has been helpful for you. I want to spend more time. Maybe what I'll do is I'll actually spend more time, because I went so long on my soapbox today. I will spend more time on body content next week, but I just had to get that off my chest, guys. It has been such an impactful thing in this world for us to have gone through this, and with people living the life that is now the new normal, right? Until we are told otherwise. But don't allow yourself to be in a situation where the brain tells you something that you then believe, and that belief becomes your reality. Do not allow your belief to become your reality. Stop it. Get emotion if you need to change your emotions. And when you are in motion, make sure that afterwards you get in a better state. And ask the right question. I think that helped me realize, what question do I need to ask myself? Whether it be about my relationships, whether it be about my business, whether it be about my life. What questions do I need to ask myself in order for myself to become my best self? And I think once I ask the right questions, I finally start to get the right answers. And those answers are what help me become who I need to be and what I need to be. And not only from Cammie, but for my 3 kids and for each one of you. So I hope today you have found the way that you guys have can change your emotion, and you dictate the feeling in your home. You dictate the feeling that people have around you. When people walk away from you, what impression do you leave, right? And I think that is empowering, knowing that you can impact the world just by offering a smile and doing what other people are not doing right now, which is being positive. Okay, so guys, I am thankful for every second you spend with me. If you are watching this on replay, you have a question, please make sure you tag me so that I see it. Please continue to post comments in the Facebook group. I promise I will get to them and make sure that they are each and every answered. And guys, I thank you so much for spending this hour with me. I will plan on next Thursday at the same time, 11 o'clock Central Standard Time, to be able to talk to you more about body content and the next topic. If you have additional questions, please let me know. Thank you so much, guys. I truly appreciate it. And until next time.